71C, notice of motion for the Green Group, reopening of the Wealden line. Councillor Davey.
Many thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to bring this notice of motion before the City Council and hope that members feel able to support it. Members probably know something of the history of this railway line and the long-running campaign, firstly to save it and then to restore it. Known as the Wealden line, it concerns a lost railway line between Lewes and Uckfield. This line, despite vehement local protests, was closed by the government in the late 1960s. An era of rampant road building with accompanying savage and all too often for local communities fatal cuts in the nation's rail network. This ill thought out policy has left a dreadful legacy to future generations. We've been suffering the consequences of this car-obsessed transport agenda ever since. And I fear that those future generations will suffer even more severely unless we act now before it's too late. Thankfully, the campaign to reopen this line has continued despite many setbacks and even gathered momentum over the years. Recent developments include a petition on the Number 10 website, and part of the response is included in this notice of motion. And as you will see, that response makes clear that there are no physical obstructions to reopening this line, and that the cost of doing so would be only £141 million. Which, in these days of billion-dollar bank bailouts and hundreds of millions of pounds for the car industry, well, 141 million surely represents good value for money. I know there are some members who say, well, what's this got to do with Brighton and Hove? Well, actually, the answer is it's got everything to do with the city of Brighton and Hove, and with the people who live here, as well as local businesses, many of whom, as we have heard this evening, are struggling to survive in dire financial circumstances. We do not exist in some kind of South Coast bubble, isolated and separate from the area around us. This city is totally dependent upon people coming here to work and to visit, and as we often hear, to spend their hard-earned cash in the local economy. They can't get here because the trains aren't running as a result of engineering works, or in fact there aren't any trains for them to catch, or they don't have a car, or because the roads are a nightmare, they aren't going to come. They will go somewhere else, and the city suffers as a consequence. Reopening this line will make it easier for people to get here. But also, we mustn't forget that many city residents are dependent upon being able to travel outside the city for work, and many of those who do so travel by train. All too often, they have to suffer the nightmare of daily overcrowding on the rush hour service. We desperately need more rush hour trains, but the train operators are unable to provide any more because the London to Brighton line is running at full capacity. Reopening the Wealden line would provide a much-needed alternative route for trains from East and Mid-Sussex, and consequently would free up capacity at bottlenecks such as the Balcombe Tunnel. So as you see, this motion has got everything to do with this city. So accordingly, I hope that members will feel able to support those campaigning to reopen this line, and to challenge the government's argument that to do so would not be cost-effective. Compared to the astronomical cost of road building, £141 million is a bargain. To spend £700 million on roads, as the South East of England is currently asking central government to do, without extending rail infrastructure, is not only foolish and ill-advised, but given everything we know about the folly of ever more road building, it is negligent and irresponsible. We know that building more roads requires the concreting over of huge swathes of countryside. It attracts more vehicles, increases congestion elsewhere, will have a detrimental impact upon air quality, and will lead to an increase in CO2 emissions, and further undermine public transport. Transport in the South East is in crisis. If it were not for the recession, it would be even worse than it is at the moment. Building more roads is not the answer. In fact, it's a significant part of the problem. If government can OK new rail infrastructure projects elsewhere in the country, they can and should do it here. Building more roads is a failed approach of the past. Rail is part of the future. So please support this notice of motion. Thank you.